I started here in September of 2004, so in September it'll be about 3 years that I'm here on campus. And my position, the title is Coordinator of Placement and Internships and Job Developer. So I kind of have a twofold job. I help students gain internships, and I also work with the employers to tell them how wonderful our students are and where the majors that we have here on campus would fit into their businesses. What brought me to Berks as a student, quite honestly, the fact that I was local. I lived about 3 miles from Berks campus in West Reading. I actually had been accepted to University Park and weighed the decision whether to come here for the first 2 years, save a really nice amount of money, and then be able to go to University Park for the last 2 years. And the setting also did. The fact that it was a little bit smaller, it was a really nice introduction to college life because I came from a very small high school. I came here in fall of 1977. There were 3 buildings. It was Lorson, probably half of the library, and what was called the Community Student Learning Center, which is now the Perkins Student Center. It was small, but I mean, it was very challenging. Teachers did not, just because it was small, it didn't mean that it wasn't real college, even though we had some people from really big high schools that were like, oh my gosh, this place is so small, but when they got into the classroom, they realized it wasn't high school, it was real. I mean, we had professors here, and there are some that are still here. It's kind of interesting. When I introduced myself as a new employee, Dr. Patterson was one of them, and he said, you look very familiar, and I kind of chuckled and said, that's because I was one of your students a really long time ago. And it was fun to see them as a professional now, because like Dr. Turks and Dr. Patterson and Dr. Baczynski, I mean, these are all people who were teachers here when I was here, and it was really interesting to now see them as a professional on the other side of things. And Dr. Perkins was just the most supportive, incredible person. He knew everything that was going on this campus. It was interesting. He knew every student on the campus, and I honestly don't know how many students were here when I was here back then. He just was amazing. I used to say, I don't know, does he sleep? You honestly didn't, you wondered, because he was at everything, and I think that's the role of a dean or a chancellor on a campus, and I think we see that now too. But you look at him now, he's still here. He definitely kept in touch with us through the years. If he saw something in the news, like he saw our marriage license in the newspaper and called us to congratulate us, and I knew you two would get married. It's that kind of thing. It was very interesting. I mean, this was a man who knew everything that was happening on campus. My husband was the Nittany Lion when we were here, and it was not the costume we have now, believe me. And we did a lot of things as a group. We used to have this big spring fair day here, and they did like an antique car show, and it brought a lot of people to the campus. It was a lot of fun, and all the different student groups had a booth as their fundraiser. That was basically your fundraiser for the year, and really good, very good community spirit. It was a good way to make sure the community knew what was going on here on campus, and basically just exposure, I think. And plus the antique cars were a great draw. And we would go to the malls, we would go to different events in the community with the Nittany Lion. And of course the Nittany Lion can't really see when he walks, so that, how you always have a person with them. One of us was always the person. So, and don't forget, we were all commuters. I mean, there was a blind man who ran the cafeteria, which was a little room, probably the third the size of Tully's right now, and it was just a window with a little kitchen behind it. He was amazing, because you would hand him money, and honestly, there must be a different feel to money, which we wouldn't know because we're not blind, but he knew. And he could add in his head, when you ordered stuff, he could add in his head faster than somebody could do it on a calculator. So, I mean, we had a lot of fun between classes. I mean, we always had dances. There were a lot of activities when we were kids. There were a lot of students actually who lived in apartments, and I think they rented rooms rather than, back then you only rented a room because you really couldn't afford a whole apartment. So you stayed on campus because it was a better place to be than in a one-room, rental. So there were a lot of, we just studying, hanging out. There were study rooms in the library. Those really nice study rooms we have now. I mean, it made a cubicle look big. It was, if you really wanted to, and there was a typewriter in there, the real typewriter. We had a group of us from a lot of different high schools, and I don't know if it was just our group or it was, in fact, Annette Beamisdorfer is a teacher here, and she was one of our our Berks family, as we called it, because when we went from sophomores here at Berks to juniors at University Park, we all lived in the same apartment complex. There were about 25 of us. I guess it was Carl Andrews and Dr. Perkins contacted us probably about 6 months after we graduated and said, hey, we're looking to form an alumni society here at Berks campus. We think we've got, a group of people that are really interested. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, there were about 10 or 12 of us, and like Charlie Adams was part of that, Carl Brown was part of that, and there were a number, like Vince Iannucci from WPI. There were I think 4 or 5 people from WPI. It was a really nice mix of ages, and I think for us it was our first experience with anything like that, and it was just, we started it very slowly because we didn't know anything about it. We had never really been in. Obviously, we were never alumni, so we were never part of anything like that. But it was such a learning experience, just the whole process of forming a board and forming a society and getting the groups together and doing the marketing for it. And you always had Dr. Perkins there, and Carl Andrews, who was, and I think his title was Director of Development, but he was a big part of it, and they were the ones, they were the voice of reason when we would all get all these ideas. And I think we started with wine and cheese parties. I think I remember that being our big fundraiser, and we did it a couple years in a row. I lived in Orlando for a few years, and if people saw my son, the one who, as we're pulling out of Pennsylvania, turned to his father and I in his 13-year-old wisdom. He was going to 7th grade at the time and said, you guys know I'm still going to Penn State, right? And he did. His first day of school, I was so scared because he went to his first day of school in Florida with a Penn State cap and a Penn State shirt and Penn State shorts and Penn State socks. And I'm thinking, this kid's going to get beat up. We were in University of Florida territory. But the good news was the young boy from Philadelphia who had a brother at Penn State and had to move down there, 6 foot in 7th grade, took him under his wing and really liked him because of all that Penn State clothing, so we were safe. That's what I mean. Everywhere you go, you find that connection. And I don't know if it's like that for other schools because I went to Penn State.